The views and opinions expressed on the Crown of Courage are those of the guest and do not reflect the official policy or position of KGEM and Emery Park Production. Any content provided by our guest is of their opinion and is not an attempt to practice medicine or give specific medical advice, including, without limitation, advice concerning the topic of mental health.
Mental health is something that is stigmatized by many, many people. It's a stigma that many people don't want to wear. But mental health is something that's very real. So the first question I ask when we talk about mental health, how do you feel today?
I feel pretty good today. I feel pretty good. This May is actually Mental Health Awareness Month. So it's very good that we're having this conversation. It needs to be talked about because a lot of people are experiencing mental health, and we need to really address issues in our community.
So you talk about people that are experiencing mental illness and having mental health issues. How do you recognize somebody that is dealing with a mental health crisis?
So first of all, you recognize mental health illnesses by appearance, behavior. When people are sleeping a lot or if they can't sleep at all, they are so obsessed with fear or suicidal thoughts. Their dynamics change, and it's very visible. You can see it. Those are some of the things that you can see in mental health.
When you are working with your clientele, with your population,
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people don't want to talk about it. They've had bad experiences. They've experienced a lot of negativity over their mental health status.
Yes.
How do you get somebody to open up about what they're going through?
First of all, you have to be totally honest and real clear about mental health, what it is and what it isn't. The stigma behind mental health. People don't want to be judged. They don't want people to think that they're different. They don't want the shame attached to the mental health question. So the way that you get people to open up is just be very direct. Just very direct. And also listen. Listen with your whole entire being. And don't try to have confront them on issues. Just absolutely be authentically yourself and open up by asking them, can I help you? Are you struggling with something? Can I call a professional? Things like that. You make people comfortable with talking about mental illness because a lot of it's a taboo situation and nobody wants to deal with it.
So what are some of the questions you would ask to get somebody to open up?
One of the questions I would ask, one of the first questions I would ask, are you feeling like you don't want to live anymore? That is one of the very first questions I would ask a person that is going through mental illness because suicide is so up there now. And sometimes we don't see the red flags. That's one of the things that I would really ask the person, are you okay? Are you thinking about not living anymore? That's something that really have to be talked about, because sometimes when you talk about mental illness, they'll fill you out to see if you know, or you can see, or is something visible on them. So talking about suicide is really, really big in dealing with mental illness.
What are some of the things we shouldn't talk about to somebody experiencing a mental health crisis?
Some of the things that we should not talk about is triggers, such as childhood trauma, over abuse of alcoholism, over abuse of drugs, things like that we should not bring up, because they're already dealing with that. They're already hiding behind a lot of those issues. And to bring it up, it triggers them. So, you don't want to bring up childhood trauma in a person that's already struggling with dealing with issues. And those are the things that I think that we should not bring up. Not at that point. At some other point we could, but not at that particular point.
So the Kennedy Austin Foundation, they're kind of the front line, kind of the triage for a lot of stuff that's going on with your populations that you serve.
Sure.
When somebody walks in the door and they're having what's obviously a mental health crisis, you've got them settled down, you've got them sitting down. What do you do next?
The next thing you do is just kind of politely ask them, how can I help you? How can I be a service to you? What can I do? Most people don't want you to push up on them. They don't want you to push your objectives. They don't want you to push what you're feeling. They want to let you know what they're going through. So you allow them that space to center themselves and to tell you, because a lot of times in your mind, they don't know what they want to say. It's so much going on in their head. Center them. Be open. Let them tell you and not project onto them what you feel is going on.
So they're centered. You've got them kind of in a better place than they were when they came in. What's next for them?
The next thing we should do is to ask them if it's okay to contact a professional. Have all of the information there for professional cares for mental health, all the 800 numbers, suicide, anxiety, depression, whatever it is that they're going through. Have information ready, because a lot of times people really don't know the signs and symptoms of mental health.
In the big picture, there's a lot going on, not just the outward kind of crisis mode that people are going through. How do you deal with a person who's just got so much boiling over inside? I mean, I'm sure, at the Kennedy Austin Foundation, you deal with all kinds of people in all kinds of states of mind. How do you deal with that person that's just about to boil over? Do you have community partners that can help you with those kind of severe crisis situations?
Sure. Now, we are not the professionals. You were asking me before, what does it look like? What does mental health look like? And I said, one of them is appearance and one is behavior. If a person comes and they're that triggered or that anxious, we normally would have to call 911, or we'd have to say to them to sit outside of our building, not to sit inside with everybody, because you don't know what's going on. And sometimes you can tell they're very anxious and antsy. So you have to have them sit on the outside of the foundation, not outside in the, you sit them outside of the office. And then if they're that agitated, then you call 911, because you never know what's going on in that person's head.
So you come to mental health as a community activist, as a community member, but you also come to mental health from experience. Tell me a little bit about your struggles.
So I'm so glad that you brought that up because May is very difficult for me. And people ask me, what does mental health look like? It looks like me. It looks just like me. You can have a foundation, you can do all these great things, you can serve the community, but deep down inside, you have issues. You're struggling on the inside. Like I tell people, it's that silent struggle. You know, you can get up and you can put on lipstick, and you can put on makeup, and you can do your duties and do your chores. But inside, there's something missing. And for me, May is a month that is so full of activities. My son's birthday is May 1st. He died May 31st. We have the Million Mothers March in May. I have 2 daughters that have birthdays in May. We have all of these things, and sometimes, I think we were talking about that a couple of weeks ago, I was just listening to a song on the radio, you know, just coming here. And it triggered me to bring up all of these emotions. I had to allow myself to feel again. And I also have to allow myself, even now, present, sitting in this seat, I have to give myself permission to cry. I'm not there. I'm not perfected. And people need to know about mental illness. People need to know it's okay to say, I'm not okay today. And we need to be open as a community to let people express that part of mental health. This month has been very difficult for me. And with all the other stuff, looking at TV, with all the community stuff, all the shootings going on, and all these things, it's a trigger. It triggers. And so I have to take care of myself, and I have to give myself permission to sometimes, I have to go on an extra walk, or I have to walk a mile more than I did before, because I have to get it out. I have to get to it. It will not help us to let it sit dormant. We have to deal with it. And that's how you can identify mental illness, because you can see it in yourself.
So aside from exercise and walking, what are you doing for yourself?
Honestly, right now, I have really engaged myself in not only journaling, but to take care of my health more. Pay attention, go to my doctor's appointments, put myself back. We talked about putting yourself back on your agenda and pen it in, not pencil. But for me, it's diet, to have a better diet, to think more positively, to listen to more music, to write, to journal, and even sometimes just to play with a pet. It could take you out of that space, you know? And those are the things that I'm learning how to do. I needed to give myself permission. Okay, so you've done all these things. The other day, I was just sitting there, and I just wrote a list of accomplishments.
How did it make you feel?
Accomplished. And not only that, I had to look at the list with a different lens. You know why? Because I never thought that I could ever get this done. I didn't know about depression. I didn't know about anxiety. I didn't know about fear. And I'm so thankful that we're having this conversation on mental health. We have to be real true to our audience like we're true to ourselves. They have to know there is help for you. You're not alone. And for me to talk about mental illness in the month of May, Mental Illness Awareness Month, is vitally important. And for me is to take better care of myself physically, mentally, psychologically, even going to the office. I have to back up from that because it's consuming. That can bring mental health, just working too much. So those are the things I'm doing. I'm really trying to be a better person, a more positive person, a more healthy person mentally.
And nobody goes it alone.
Mm-hmm.
So do you have a counselor, a therapist, a confidant?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You know, as a matter of fact, I just started counseling this year for the very first time in my entire life. Then I have a counselor, and because of COVID, I don't go into the office, but we talk every Monday for 1 hour. And it's been so amazing because he brings out a lot of the things that I try to bury or hide on the inside. And he'll say one thing, and it triggers a whole avalanche of other things that's going on inside of me. So yes, counseling is one of the things that I added to my agenda this year. I needed it. I needed someone to talk to, and I didn't want to always have a friend that kind of know me or my children. I wanted somebody that didn't know me. I wanted to tell somebody some other stuff that I'm dealing with. And so I went out of my way to do that for myself this year.
How does somebody looking from the outside in, how does somebody say to a loved one, to a friend, to a community member, hey, I think you're struggling?
Mm-hmm.
How do they broach that subject?
I think, honestly, the way to approach that subject is to be blatantly honest and let the person know, hey, I'm seeing some changes. Are you okay? Without judging, without projecting, without adding your own stuff to that. I think if we're real honest and true, and we're very concerned, people will open up and talk about it. But it has to be in a space where people feel comfortable talking about what's really going on. Hey, we've self-medicated all of our lives. And now that we have this platform to talk about mental illness, it's easier for people to talk about it to us if we're open.
How do you broach subjects like therapy and medications?
Mm-hmm.
I know you're not the professional, so medication is not something that you can talk about,
Mm-hmm.
but it's something that people will inevitably ask you about.
Sure.
My doctor wants me to go on meds.
Yeah.
How do you offer support for that if that's something that the doctor is calling for?
Yeah. First you have to allow people to know what mental health is and what it is not. I think that we have done a disservice by over-medicating. I think that we have done a disservice by allowing people to be on drugs or medication that they don't need to be on. And so I always say to that person, educate yourself on everything there is to know about mental health. Read up on it, do a research, Google things, and let people know your scope on how you feel, or give them an opportunity to say, I don't want to be on medication. Maybe I want to be on health, remedies and things like that. But you give them an option. But by all means, let them know what mental health is. Let them know what mental health is not, and do the research. Do the research. We have self-medicated for way too long, and it has caused bigger problems.
So, healthy remedies,
Mm-hmm.
behavior modification, harm reduction.
Mm-hmm.
Are these things that clients at the Kennedy Austin Foundation can come in and start working on with you and your staff? Is that
Mm-hmm.
something that's there and available for them?
Sure. All people want is to be accepted. People want to know that you care. And a lot of times we need a task or a chore to do. We are so busy being isolated and confined. Mental health is alienating. It's very alienating. It's very isolating. When people come into that space and I look at them, I always give them a task. Every single time. It could be sweeping the floor. It could be picking up the food for the food bank. It could be in there sorting through clothes, shoes. It gives them a sense of doing something, a sense of I matter, a sense of you care enough about me to allow me in this space, and you've given me a chore. That's all people want. Connect me. Because there's such a disconnect in mental illness.
Creating a sense of community.
Absolutely.
What are some of the more common mental illnesses you see? You talked about some of the symptoms like suicide. What are some of the common illnesses that you encounter at the Kennedy Austin Foundation?
One of the big ones is OCD, PTSD. You have a big one with depression, overeating. Those are the ones that you see a lot of. Anxiety, sleeplessness, restlessness. Those are the ones that people come in there. They have a lot of anxiety, anxious over little things, trivial things. But OCD is huge. It's huge. I mean, it's a disorder, and it's a disconnect, and people want to talk about those things. So those are eating disorders. People eat and then they go and they regurgitate to get rid of it because they don't like the way it feels inside their body, but they have to eat. Anxiety, fear. People are so afraid of death, but yet they're drawn to it. Those are the things that we talk to with a lot of people that come in here. They are so afraid of death, the fear of dying. But yet, they don't want to live. They want to come out of the space. They don't want to die. They just want you to let them know they don't have to die. Give them something to do, something positive, the positive reinforcement. You matter. Your life matters. You were sent here for a reason. Come on, let us help you. We sit down and we eat lunch and we laugh and we play music and we talk, and all of a sudden you could see out of the ash heap a person evolving. All of us are wired to be together, and that's what we have to do. We have to get back at that.
So a person experiences this. They emerge from the depression, from the anxiety, from the OCD, and then they have to go home. Mm-hmm. So how do the family members, how can you help family members teach them to cope with this person's mental illness? How can family offer support?
That is something that I have looked into, because you only can do so much. You can't be a cure-all. You can't fix it all. You work with that person, and hopefully their family will see improvement in that person's health or behavior or whatever they're dealing with. What we like to do is to refer families to different entities, professionals, that they can all get group counseling, group therapy, and things like that, so that that person that's dealing with the depression won't feel so alienated and isolated, because now the family is being aware of how that person is dealing with anxiety and depression.
Family seems vital, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. The people that have the contact the most. Tell me about your family. Your family has been, well, with you from 100% of the time.
Yeah, they have. It's vitally important to have open conversations without fear, without feeling judged, without being shamed. I think that we as a family need to open up and not to project our will onto somebody else. My family, they're very supportive. I didn't know how to talk about alcoholism. I didn't know how to bring up depression, anxiety, fear, all the fears that I've always had. But now I feel comfortable with bringing it up. And not only that, it brings out the issues in other people around you. It creates a space for us to talk about certain things. And it feels good on the inside to be allowed the space to talk, not only about all the good, but the good, the bad, and the ugly. Let's just get it out, and we can deal with it. And again, find the professionals that can help us. Vitally important.
So if somebody doesn't want to see a professional, doesn't want to go to therapy or counseling, what are some of the things they can do to kind of help themselves?
Some of the things they can do is, like we talked about before, maybe change your diet. Maybe change the way you view life, or change the way you view what's going on in your personal life. Walking, breathing, exercising, things like that. Finding a hobby. Go and volunteer somewhere where you feel needed. Those are things that I think people really need to be connected to and with. And it helps a lot when you do self-care. Self-care is vitally important because you learn how to take care of yourself a little bit better. And that's really the bottom line. You want to feel better. So in order to feel better, you put yourself on a better regimen. Like we talked about, gardening, making our own jam or jelly, or just seeing beautiful flowers grow. All of these things are vitally important to a person that's dealing with mental illness.
We've talked a lot about journaling.
Mm-hmm.
How does journaling help somebody who's going through what could turn into a mental health crisis?
Mm-hmm. You know, for me, it brings out things that I can't say. It brings out potential. It brings out vision. It brings out words and deeds that I have buried on the inside. It helps me to identify with myself. It helps me to say what I like, what I don't like, what makes me feel good, what makes me feel bad, what makes me cry. Triggers. Journaling for me is like having a silent partner. No judgment. You can write what you want or the lack thereof. And it's just that. And it brings out, you can hear a song and just write a title of a song, and then you can remember. I remember that song and what I was doing at that time. And then from there, you just flow. It just flows. It just flows. And when you leave that space of journaling, it can make you feel like you got things out.
I would imagine that you deal with a lot of resistance from people.
Mm-hmm.
How do you overcome that resistance?
You overcome the resistance by being honest, open. People don't need you to be a know-it-all. They don't need that. The resistance is there because there's so much attached to mental illness, shame, disapproval, all of those things. So you just have to be honest and open and connect. Vitally important to connect with that person because they've been through all the cycles. They watch and see who they can talk to honestly and openly without judgment. And that's who we have to be. Come to people that's dealing with mental illness. And we have to let them know, I have no idea what you're going through, but I would like to go through it with you. I have no idea what that feels like. I have no idea what that looks like, but I'm here for you. That's the connection. That makes people open up and want to talk about mental illness and things that they're dealing with. Other than that, they shut down.
That's a lot to take on.
Mm-hmm.
For both.
Yeah.
For you and for the client.
Absolutely.
So at the end of the day, you spoke a little bit about self-care earlier. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, how do you and the rest of the people at the Kennedy Austin Foundation, how do you deal with carrying that?
We have a lot of conversations. We do a lot of praying. We do a lot of journaling. We're always up. It seems like we always have music going on all the time. We walk around with no shoes sometimes. I like to sing. And now
I've heard you like to sing.
Yeah. And now everybody wants to sing. They all can't sing, but they try. So we create an atmosphere where it's fun. You want to be there. You want to be in that space, sitting there having lunch or working on books or topics or titles or working on upcoming events and projects. you're connected. You're connecting these people to and with something very positive, and it brings the life out of them. And so Kennedy Austin is like, sometimes I have to say, lock the door. We don't want any people in here today. It's just us. They go, no, they're going to come in anyway, so let's let them in. But we have created an atmosphere, a space for people to be themselves. You don't have to be anything. You just can be yourself. And even if you're a very quiet person and you're not loud, you could just sit there and giggle and laugh and twirl your thumbs or whatever. You're fine. It's okay.
It sounds like a pretty wonderful place.
Absolutely. I think it is.
So
I think it's pretty good.
There's a difference between mental health and mental wellness.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Person that comes in and is dealing with a mental health crisis, they're obviously not mentally well. But what about the person that's just kind of on the fringe, is just a little down that day?
Yeah.
What do you do for that person?
So mental health and mental illness is a state of well-being. It is a brain disorder. It is a connection between your mind, your thought, your emotions. Sometimes people are having flashbacks from trauma, and it takes them down that path. What you have to be is sensitive to know or to ask. Just ask questions. Are you okay? Do you need professional help today? Or do you just need me to listen? So listening without judgment, being there, being in that space that they can feel they can trust you is absolutely important. They may just be having a breakup. They may be having issues of, like me, hearing a song and I just start crying and I couldn't turn the tears off for a while. It may be that, just that space and that place where they just need someone there. It's like, I just need a glass of water. I'll be fine. It's okay.
Tell me about some of your community partners.
Yes.
They're mental health professionals, they are counselors, they are therapists.
Mm-hmm.
What's the step to get? What are the steps to get from Kennedy Austin to one of your community partners?
One phone call. They're just a phone call away.
That easy.
That easy. We have all the 800 numbers displayed, the 911 numbers displayed, Tri-City Mental Health, NAMI, the Public Health Department of Los Angeles, California. We have all of those things displayed. And so to partner with those people to make a phone call. I have people in my office all the time that are homeless. And all I have to do is just make one phone call, and the counselors come right to the office within 20 minutes. They're there.
Wow. To
talk to that person, that, or to minister, or to say, Tri-City's open, you want to follow me? Well, they take them right in. So having partners with professional entities is vitally important, because we don't have all the answers and we don't know all the signs and symptoms, but we do have professional people that they do know, and they can give them the services that they need.
No doubt in my mind that somebody watching today is experiencing a crisis, has been triggered, something's going on in their life. If you could send a message to that person that's watching, what would you tell them?
I would honestly tell them to take a really good look at me. Just take a really good look at me. Put together, started a foundation, started a publishing company, wrote books, a lot of community activities, very current in everything. But deep down inside, I go through bouts of depression. I think if we're going to talk about courage, we got to put it out there and let people know. You don't always have to be so put together. You don't always have to say, I'm okay. Mental health looks just like me. And you should tell the people that have professional jobs, or to the homeless people that's walking the street, Mental health have no race, creed, or color. It looks like me. It looks like the world. And you can get help. You just have to reach out. You have to own your emotions and say, I need help. If you can do it, so can I. We need to be a mirror. We don't always have to go someplace and feel like we're on top of the world, or today I'm going to master this or that. Sometimes we have to go in and say, I'm not feeling so good today. I need help. That's me all month. I needed so much help this month because I was dealing with it. And I go through times in my life that I skip over. And then there's other years that my son has been gone, that I feel it again. And this is one of those years. Mental health looks identical to who I am and what I'm dealing with and what I'm going through. And I can tell my daughters, like, I need you guys, come on down today. We need to talk. Or sometimes I can tell my friend I need one more little glass of that wine. Whatever it is that I do. But let's just be clear. Let's be honest. Let's be open. Let's not take them through all of these steps and skip that one. That one may be the one that can change their lives. Let them know it's okay not to be okay. It's okay to have all of this going on in life. And deep down inside, I'm lonely and the isolation is killing me. That's mental illness. It looks identical to me. Mm-hmm.
This has been an amazing conversation, as always. I am grateful that you have been so open about your struggles, mm-hmm. About the things that you're going through, about
yes.
your newfound counseling, mm-hmm. therapy.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal.
Yes.
People aren't alone. People aren't alone. They don't have to be alone.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're living, walking proof of that.
Yeah.
So thank
Absolutely.
you. Thank you. If you are experiencing a mental health crisis, if you are struggling, mm-hmm.
Call
somebody, talk to somebody. You aren't alone.
That's right.
Ethel,
are not alone.
Ethel shows us that all the time.
Absolutely.
That you are not alone, and you do have a place. The Kennedy Austin Foundation,
right.
Any number of their community partners.
Mm-hmm.
Call somebody. Ethel, as always, thank you.
You are so welcome. I just love being here in this space.
Me too. Me too.
The information contained in this show is for the sole purpose of being informative and is not to be considered complete and does not cover all issues related to mental health. Moreover, this information should not replace consultation with your doctor or other qualified mental health providers and/or specialists. If you believe you or another individual is suffering a mental health crisis or other medical emergency, contact your doctor immediately. Seek medical attention immediately. In an emergency, call 911.